about number of when we consider any computer system, that then in case of multi-programming system, there are multiple processes running at a given point of time. Okay, if it's a multi-programming system, and it is like you can consider that in our department itself, you can say that our department is running a course called as MCA, which is a 3 years degree. Okay, so now if we will not schedule this 3 year degree, then at a given point of time, then only we can only run one batch. Okay, semester and MCA 6 semester. That means for a 3 batch course, you can consider these 3 batches as 3 processes. It is, you can consider it as multi-programming system, and but there are only 4 or 5 number of teachers who teaches all of this 3 semesters. Okay, so we students, even the students, even the teachers has to be scheduled if we want to run multiple programs at the same time. Like 2 years back, we also had BCA, and right now we have only MCA and PhD. That means we also have other different courses. So for these different courses to run at a single short of time, at a given point of time, for these processes to run, we need to schedule them. That's why we have timetable. Okay, so this timetable, you can call it as schedulers. So in this timetable, different time slots are created where different processes, MCA 2nd semester, MCA 4th semester, MCA 6 semesters are submitted, and they run concurrently. They are running they are running together at a given point of time. Okay, so for that, in the last lecture we had started with that, we studied that. So if you want to do multi-programming system, we have to schedule them. Okay, so for scheduling them, we first studied there will be queues. We have to, if you want to do multi-programming, then there will have to be a queue. So this queue will have, there are 3 types of queues. One is the job queue. That means, let us say there are 4 queues like MCA 2nd, MCA 4th, MCA 6th, and the PhD. Even in PhD, there are PhD 2016 batch, PhD 2017 batch, PhD 2018 batch, 19 batch, 21 batch. So there are 5 batches of PhD program running. So 5 batches plus 3 batches of MCA, there are 8 processes running. So these are 8 job queues. Okay, so now at 9:30 a.m. in the morning, your batch is having your classes. Okay, so that means you are in the ready queue. You are ready at 9:30. I was waiting for you guys. That means you guys were ready for the classes. Okay, so now when you were ready for the classes, I needed input output devices like computer, network, this and that. Okay, so we had to make them ready. Okay, so when we talk about process scheduling, we will have the first, we'll have to first prepare the scheduling queues. These are job queues, ready queues, and input output devices. Okay, so this we have studied with the help of a queuing diagram for process scheduling in the last class. Okay, so the second topic, yeah. Okay, I have not shared screen yet. I was just giving the summary of what we were studying in the last lecture. Okay, so now I am going to teach new topics. So now I'm sharing my screen. Now let me know if my screen is visible or not. Until now, it was the quick revision of what we were studying in the last lecture. So is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Just give me 10 seconds. I need to turn on the charging. Okay, so now students, when I was teaching you last lecture, I did not tell you that the topic that I was teaching on that day, or I just did the revision of, is like very, very important. It is something that you must remember. Okay, but now the topic that I'm going to teach today is extremely important with respect to 3 things. 1, university exam; 2, competitive exam; and 3, to understand how actually your operating system functions. Okay, trust me, schedulers are very, very important. to correlate the schedulers with the real time, you can see that the schedulers are like timetable. Okay, but this timetable, obviously, if you will consider this department, then these timetables are of different types. You can see that there are three types of schedulers in the department. One timetable for the theory classes, because theory classroom has to be booked. Okay, two timetable for the lab, because the practical session has to be booked. Three timetable for the PhD research scholars who will stay in the lab and do their resource. Okay, so we can see, similarly we can say that what is a scheduler. A scheduler is when a process migrates between various scheduling queues throughout its lifetime, it is called as your schedulers. Or in the simple term, we can say that the selection process that is carried out by our devices from the list of the processes that is there in the main memory is called as your schedulers. For example, if this is your main memory, I told you in your main memory, a portion of your main memory will always be occupied by the operating system kernel. The moment you turn on your computer, not the entire operating system gets loaded in the main memory. No, then you will require a huge mm. Okay, mm means a main memory. Okay, but if you have only 1 GB of main memory and your operating system itself would be 3 4, I don't know what is the size of the operating system in my computer right now, but only the crux of the operating system, the kernel, is uploaded in the OS, which is responsible for booting of the computer. So let's say from 0 to 200 MB OS occupies the main memory, so the rest we will have left for many things. Okay, so let's say I have P0 here, I have P1 here, process 1, process 2, and process 3. So now what is the scheduler? The process of selecting one process out of all this process and putting it and considering it for the CPU is called as your scheduler. And this selection process is not easy. Okay, this selection process is not easy because this is the main memory and this is the CPU, and these two are completely two different resources. Okay, so for that, to make it happen, we have three types of schedulers: long-term scheduler, short-term scheduler, and medium-term scheduler. The long term and the short term are the two types of schedulers that are famous and exist in every operating system. But medium term scheduler is an optional. You'll find it in some operating system and you may not find it in some of the operating system. Okay. So let us now start exploring schedulers. We'll start with your long term scheduler. So now as I start with long term scheduler, okay, so you have already seen the different types of schedulers. So just let me write down long-term scheduler. No. Okay. So array persisted. Had I not drawn the okay. Students, give me 1 minute time. I need to draw process state transition diagram. Okay, so as I'm telling you, your process schedulers, we need to correlate your schedulers with process state diagram. The processes, okay, in different states we will have different types of schedulers. And if we are to consider the competitive exams, then they do not directly ask what is medium term, what is short term, or what is long term. They will either ask you long term schedulers is it happens in this state of transition diagram, or long term scheduler handles this type of job. Okay, so they will ask you in such case. So now, first of all, let me tell you what is a long-term scheduler. Okay, a long-term scheduler, or I'll be using the abbreviation. Okay, a long-term scheduler is also called as your job scheduler. Now you guys tell me. Now you guys tell me, where do we do the when I was teaching you state transition diagram for process states, I also told you that in new we call it as some like there I use the term job queue, I use the term process queue. Okay, or I told you in either of these states, I told you it is the handling of the main memory. Again, in either of these states, I told you it is handling of the CPU resource. So now tell me, where in which of these states do we handle main memory? In which of these states do we handle CPU? And also, where does the job scheduling in this diagram happens, and where does the process scheduling in this diagram happens? I have told you all of these when I was teaching you state transition diagram. So tell me whatever comes to your mind, just tell me without googling.
Ma'am, job queue in memory.
Job main memory में, very good. And which of this transition diagram? Yes, you are correct. Job queue happens in main memory. Can you tell me in which of these states job queue happens?
Ma'am, ready.
Job queue. Job queue in ready queue. Sorry, ready state. Am I audible? Students, am I audible? Okay, yes. Who was it? I don't know who answered that question, but whomsoever was it, she was correct. Okay, she was correct. Now listen to me very carefully, because these are important and you are getting to hear it again. So फिर से अच्छे से सुनो. This is the state transition diagram for a process. That means right after a process is created and when it is ready, okay, it will from ready state it will go to the running state. Ready state is like in the main memory. This is your main memory. Okay, this is your main memory. We'll have multiple processes here, and when we have multiple processes in the main memory, that is when we call it as multi-programming concept. How many processes can reside in memory at a point of time? That is the degree of multi-programming. अगर आपका computer, if your computer is capable of storing 10 process in your RAM, that means the degree of multi-programming of your computer is 10. If my computer is able to store 10 processes in the main memory, that means the degree of multi-programming of my computer is 20. जितना main memory में हम programs को store कर सकते हैं, जितने numbers of program, that becomes the degree of multi-programming. Okay, so this is my OS. So now ready queue is in the main memory. Okay, and this ready queue is also called as your job scheduler. Why? Because in here we are storing different processes and we are scheduling it. Okay, so algorithms are also there. Okay, so what all algorithms runs in the main memory or in the ready queue, I'll tell you that in the forthcoming topic. So now P0, P1, P2 has been scheduled here. Okay, out of so many processes in your computer, these were the processes that were in the queue and that entered into the main memory, and this is called as your ready queue, or sorry, ready state. Okay, So what does the long-term scheduler do now? Your long-term scheduler is also called as job scheduler, and it selects processes from this pool and loads them into the memory for execution. So let us say that your main memory can store only 3 processes, but now let me write down. Let's say you have calculator. Okay, so you want to open calculator, you have word file, calculator, word file, and what else, google chrome and or the paint. Okay, and paint. So now you have, when we have these many queues, so if you see here we have 4 queues, but your computer's main memory can store only 3, but your user has opened all of these 4. Okay, but of course because your main memory can store only 3 processes, so now a queue will be made ready. Okay, and we call this as pool of processes. So now I have here pool of processes. From these processes, now in this pool will be called as jobs. What are the job? Calculator, word, chrome, paint. So now out of these many processes in this job pool, or out of these jobs in the job pool, what all processes will be brought into the main memory. Okay, the process of selecting the processes from the job queue is called as your long-term scheduler. Okay, from the job queue, when we have to select that many number of processes which can be accommodated by main memory, it is called as your long-term scheduler. Okay, it is called as long-term scheduler because these jobs are going to remain in the main memory for longer period of time, until and unless you implicitly close it. For example, I am running this process right now, so it is there in the main memory as well as in the CPU. It was there in the main memory, so now I have started using it, so now it has been taken out and it is being stored in the process. That's why it's running. So now when I click this cross tab here, this one will be erased. Okay, so now it is there in the main memory for longer period of time. That is why it is called as long-term scheduler. Okay, so next is your long-term scheduling happens in your ready queue. Okay, because ready queue mein kya hota hai, as answered rightfully by a girl, I was not able to check the name. Okay, so as rightfully answered by one of your friend, ready queue happens in the main memory. That means if long-term scheduling is there in the ready queue, that means long-term scheduling is the scheduling of the jobs of the main memory. Okay, so now let me teach you what is your short-term scheduler. So now this is your main memory, and we know that running is your scheduling of the CPU, central processing unit. In the last class I've told you. Okay, the running state of your process state transition diagram belongs to your CPU. That means scheduling of the processor of your computer system is the running state, and this scheduling of the process happens in the CPU. And I've told you several times, at a given point of time, if you have a single processor system, then only, for example, your main memory can store many processes, but your CPU, one processor at one point of time can store only one process. So now what is a short-term scheduler? Your short-term scheduler is also called as CPU scheduler. Let us say your long-term scheduler is your practical classes, because you will be there in the practical classes for 2 hours. Your short-term scheduler, let us say this as your theory classes, because you are there in the theory class for only 1 hour. Okay, so your short-term scheduler, also known as your CPU scheduler, selects from among the processes that are ready to execute. That means we have here 3 processes. Okay, we had 4. What did the ready queue do? What did the ready state did? In the new, we had this queue. We had these queue in the new state. From there, in the ready queue, out of this many, only 3 was brought into the main memory. That means in the ready, I have only 3 now, P0, P1, P2. Let's say calculator, word, and Chrome. Okay. So now out of the, let us say calculator, word, and paint, because I'm using paint right now. Okay. So it has been brought into the main memory. So right now, which process is running? Right now, my paint is running. So now, how is it selected? How is this paint selected? Okay, so this process, the process of selection among the processes that are ready. Now, all these processes were ready to execute. Now, this one is the process that is running. That means it is there in the CPU and it is called as your short-term scheduler. So why is it called as short-term scheduler? The reason is now I am there in the paint. That means it is there in the CPU. Now, if I will open my Chrome here, if I will open my Chrome here, that means the moment I will click this Chrome button here, from the CPU, this paint will be taken. ऐसा होता है real time में. Okay. The moment I navigate from this window to the Chrome window, what does my CPU does is, my CPU will take out this paint from the CPU, store the current value in the PCB process control block. We have studied it, and it will open in the CPU from these many lists. Now I want to open Chrome. So out of this, it will be from this list, Chrome will be taken, or Chrome was the your P2. Okay, it will be sent to the CPU. So now it is called as short term, because in the CPU, every process resides there for a very small amount of time, because we constantly navigate. When we are using our computer, we constantly move from one tab to the other tab. And if we have dual core, quad core, 8 core systems, that means we have that many processes. That means we have 8 processes running simultaneously in 8 different processors of your computer. Okay, so that is your short-term scheduler. Then I was telling you guys, there is one more. Okay, so there is one more, and that, let me write down that. That is your medium term scheduler. Okay, so it's not visible, so let me drag this one here. So I have here one more, that is your medium term scheduler. Okay, so now this medium term scheduler, it is not like your long term or short term. In the context, these are medium term scheduler is not a mandatory scheduler. That means you will not find this scheduler in your in every operating system. It is an optional scheduler. Okay, so the because now most of the sophisticated operating systems, they assign the job of medium term scheduler to one of these 2 schedulers. Okay, or some operating system, they assign or they prefer to have one more scheduler to perform some specific task. And what is this task? The medium term scheduler is also called as swapping. Okay, swapper, we also call it as swapper. So what does it do? It is a process. Okay, it is a process of swapping schedulers. Okay, so that means what do we do here is, in the medium term scheduler, we remove processes from memory. Okay, that means we remove processes from memory, and we store processes may, if I have like these 3 processes, now I have 4 job queue. I had stored calculator here. Let us say I have your Chrome and I have your paint. So now there are so many applications of software in the system, so that many queues are there. So now I want to store word into the main memory. So for that, we have something called as some other form of memory is there. So let us say now P2 is currently being used. We swap out P1 from the main memory, because now we want to store word here. Okay, so the swapping out of a process from the main memory to some other location and swapping in of the new process from the new state to the ready state is called as your medium term scheduler. We call it as swapper because it performs the task of swapping out and swapping in back some new process. Okay, so these are the long-term, short-term, and medium-term scheduler. Okay, so let me give a quick revision of it. Long-term scheduler is also known as your job scheduler. A short-term scheduler is your CPU scheduler, and your medium-term scheduler is a process of swapping scheduler. It is a process swapping scheduler. So इस process को swapping करने का scheduler we call it as medium term scheduler. Your long term scheduler, it determines which jobs are brought into main memory for processing. So out of these many queues, what are the processes that needs to be brought into the main memory or into the ready state is called as your long term scheduler. Your short term scheduler is it selects from the jobs. Now here in ready, it's selected from the job pool and brought into ready, okay, main memory mein. But now in running or short term, it selects from the list of the ready queue, that means from the main memory, and brought it into the running state, that is your CPU. Okay, so now medium term, it is used especially with time sharing system. Okay, when your system has been time shared as an intermediate scheduling lever. Now I'm not going to repeat what is time sharing system, we have already done it. Okay, so now the third most important point is your long term scheduler, okay, is less frequent. It happens less frequently because in memory we can store many processes at a given point of time, so we do not need to frequently apply long term scheduler. But in your CPU it can store only one process at a time, so your CPU scheduling happens as frequent as possible क्योंकि every process in the main memory needs processor to get it running, and only one process can reside in the processor. So running or the short term scheduler happens very frequently, but your long term scheduler happens as less as possible. So is scheduler and different types of scheduler clear to you guys? Any doubt from this topic?
No, ma'am.
Everyone?
No, ma'am.
Okay, others? Other guys and girls? Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So now I'm going to clear my board now. Okay, so this is all. This was very many times, maybe like 8 to 9 times in the past. Questions in GATE, in GATE itself, they might have asked like 7 to 8 times. In the net also 7 to 8 times. Question has been asked from this scheduler. Okay, so but while teaching, you'll find that in first Go transition diagram is taught, and then in the second Go schedulers are taught, and students often cannot relate these two topics. So I've brought them together here and try to correlate it so that you can understand where does long-term scheduling happens, where short-term scheduling happens, and where medium-term scheduling happens. Medium-term scheduling is swapping out, swapping in, swapping out, swapping in. See here. This is your medium term scheduler. It happens between ready queue and running. Okay, it is like swapping out from the main memory and swapping into the CPU, swapping out from CPU and swapping into the main memory. It is your medium term scheduler. So in various competitive exam, since if you look at the past 10 to like 15-year questions, each time they have asked some question from this topic. So it is extremely important. Okay. Okay, so students, the second topic of the day is operation on process. Okay, process. So what are the different when we have a process running? For example, this is the process. Okay, so this is the process by you are able to see my screen, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, So you can see in my screen, I have a process named as Paint 3D. I told you in the main memory, when main memory opens a process, it does not stores the process in the main memory as Paint 3D. We have studied when we were studying process control block. I told you for each process that is created, a process ID is given. Okay. So let us say my process ID is P3. या क्योंकि Paint 3D है तो Paint, let us say it is P3. So now I have opened it. That means this process has now been created. Okay. So after a process is created, or after the, I have so many softwares in the this computer, I can open any at a given point of time. Okay. So when we have these many programs, what are the different operations that we can perform in this process? Okay. So what the process in the system can execute concurrently? We know that we have, if you'll see here, I have my browser, I have this folder, I have this Paint 3. So all these are the processes that are running concurrently right now. Concurrently means एक साथ, अभी के अभी कितने ज़्यादा run हो रहा है, that is concurrently. Okay. But now if you will check this window here, see here, there are so many softwares here. Okay, there are so many software here. But what are the processes? These are the programs in my computer. But what are the processes? The processes are only this browser, this folder, and this Paint 3D. Why? Because these are the programs that are currently executing. We have already studied it. Okay. So now, if I want to convert any of these programs into processes, okay, we have to create them. I click this and this process got created. I clicked the Paint 3D, this process get created. Now, apart from this, what are the various operations that we can perform on process? Okay, so the first operation that we can perform on a process is we can create process, and the mechanism is called as your process creation. Okay, so now to a process may create several new process. Let us say you have opened Word file. So now if you will open Word file, you can, from the Word file itself, you can give the print command, or you can continue editing. When you press the print command from here also, if I'll do like this one, okay, so my printing, a new process has been created now, this print. So now if I'll say okay here, if I'll press this print button here, will the browser get printed? No. Why? Because now this process, this print page process here, is a sub process of the parent process Paint 3D. That is why now even if I'll open this browser, okay, so even if I'll open this browser, and where did my print command go? Even if now I'll open this browser, now this Control P has now been pressed into the browser. That's why it will print the page of the browser now, not of the Paint 3D. So such type of processes is called as your child process. Okay, wherein this child is related to the parent process. Okay, so a parent itself can create multiple. A parent itself can create multiple child process. Okay, so that means when we create a child process of a parent process, they are interrelated. And when I do something into this sub process, the changes are according to the command that is being invoked in the parent one. Okay, so now if you want to close this print page, if you want to close this sub process, there are two ways to do it. One, you close the child first. Second, you close the parent, then the child also gets closed. Okay, so there are different ways to do it. So the first operation that we can perform on the process is creation of the process. Okay, and we can create it via create process system call. Okay, so during the course of execution itself, while the parent is executing, you can do it, or you can create from the list here, from this list here. If I'll create if I'll select this draw.io, that means again a new process has been created. And when I say click this one in this particular page, operating system कैसे करता है? It will invoke, the operating system will invoke a command. Let me write down. The operating process creation Now, if I'll select the Draw IO software application from my window, then what will it do? This Windows operating system will invoke a create command. हमें तो क्या लग रहा है? We are clicking on this icon, but at the background, what is happening is the operating system is calling a system call, the create command, and then it will convert this application into a running process. That means a process has been created. Okay, so after a process is created, we can also have a parent process and a child process. For example, if I'm to consider operating system as a software, that is the parent, and under that parent, this Paint 3D, a child process has been created. Okay, the creating process is called as a parent process. In our case, Windows 10, the operating system in my computer, is my parent process, and this Paint 3D is my child process. Okay, so each of these new process may turn, create, or other processes, forming a tree of process. For example, I had one processes running operating system. It created multiple processes like my Paint 3D. I
Hello.
Class, is process creation clear to everyone? Class, is process creation clear to everyone?
No, ma'am. Ma'am, your voice is breaking.
No, ma'am.
Okay, so let me.
You are not audible.
Or a new process is created. Okay, so the moment you turn on your computer, a process is created. The name of the process is operating system, and as long as you continue to use that system or this computer, then all the processes that are created, okay, that runs along with a along with a parent process, that is your operating system. But apart from these two, if you are like this paint 3D, within this paint 3D I can invoke other child processes like control P. See here, the moment I press control P, a new process is created. Now this new process here is executing along with the parent process. Okay, so creation of process is when a new process is created. This new process is created by a system call. And now this system call, I told you that these are the methods. Now these methods are specific to operating system. When this fork system call is used by Linux, not by your Windows. So that means if from these list of programs, if I will click select this camera here.
Ma'am,
Yeah,
स्क्रीन विजुअल नहीं है.
स्क्रीन विजिबल नहीं है, ठीक है. अब विजिबल है? Is it visible now?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So now let us say this is the process creation diagram. Okay. So if you want to create a new process, the system or your computer will invoke or it will call one method called as your fork. So now if this system was using Linux operating system, then every time I open a new process, it will call a method. We call this as system calls. It will give a call to the system or the operating system. Fork करके एक method to invoke करेगा, and this fork will open. Let us say this is my list. I want to open Adobe Reader. The moment I will click it, operating system, how does it know this has been how will the operating system know it has to be open? So the moment I click it, it will give a call to the fork system call, and the operating system will now open this process. Okay. But this fork system call exists only in the Linux or in the Unix operating system. But now mine is Windows. So what is the name of the system call in Windows is process creation only. Create process. Instead of fork in Windows, we have create process. I will show that list later. Okay. So with fork, we create a new child process. Okay, so operating system already run kar raha tha. Now I have Paint 3D here. A child has been created. So now if now this Paint window will give the print command. Now one more tree will be open. So OS was there, a tree structure. OS has opened one new process, Paint. Paint has opened a new process called as print. Okay, so open new process print. So that means when this print is running in the background, even the parent is executing. See here, while the child process is executing executing command, this Paint 3D, while it is executing, the OS in the background is also executing. Similarly, if I'll press here Control P here, Paint command, see here in the background, my Paint 3D is executing. Okay. So while the child process is running, the parent will continue to work. And the structure in this, it is remembered by the operating system, is the tree structure. Okay, it has been asked once in the competitive exam. See, tree structure like this. So now, if now I had opened this one, so now I have closed it. Okay, so that means I've exited from the sub process. Okay, main process, operating system. This one created one more child process, sub process. The name of the child sub-process was Paint 3D. It created one more sub-process, that is your Paint. That means now this Paint will continue to exit work under print. Your Paint काम करेगा इसके अंदर. This one will function under this. That means this print is a sub-process of your indirectly your operating system. So once I will close this one, this print page, that means I am exiting from the sub process. So once I'm exiting from the print one, I have exited from here. What do? I join the parent one, the Paint. Okay, so until then, while I was printing my Paint 3D, this window, what it was doing? My parent was waiting for child to exit. So now I have exited. Paint में मैंने exit किया, so I come back to Paint. So I resume my task. Now, right now I have resumed. I am teaching you from here. Okay. So this is your process creation. So now along with your process creation, one more operation that can be performed with your processes are is your process termination. Okay, process termination. A process is created like this: for execute, parent runs, wait, exit करके a process is created. After a process is created, okay, so when the parent is done waiting, it may happen, so it does not want to, like, after printing this one, I don't want to, I have closed it. So it was waiting. Okay, it was waiting. I have closed it. Okay, I've closed it. So now I don't want to work here. I want to close this window. So if I close it, then what we call it as process termination. This process has been terminated. Okay, and we also call it as abort the process. That means close that process. It happens only after waiting for all the child processes to exit. For example, now you can see from my screen, 3 processes are running. This folder, this Paint 3D, this browser. So now without closing any of this window, you guys know that I can choose to turn off my computer. अगर मैंने button press किया तो मेरा computer off हो जाएगा. But before that happens, you might have noticed a question pops up. Some applications are running in the background. Do you want to close it or force the shutdown? So if without closing this child process, if you are forcing the parent process operating system to shut down, that means the operating system, the parent will, okay, ye khud se, it will take an initiative to close all its child process, abort all the child process, then only the parent will abort or will get terminated. That means for a parent process to terminate, all the child process must be terminated first, then only the parent can terminate. That's why if you see, look at this picture very, very carefully. If you look at this picture very, very carefully, see here, this is where our child has completed. See, यहाँ पे child ने complete हो चुका है. The child process has completed its task, but still beyond this, the parent process has continued to work because it has to make sure all the child process has been aborted. Okay, so what are the various operations and processes that can be done? Process creation and then the process termination. Okay, so is this clear to all of you? Is the process, what do we call it? The operation and processes clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes, others, I need three, 4 yeses.
Yes, ma'am.
Rashmi, Shivangi.
Yes, ma'am, it's clear.
Okay, Shivangi, is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ramre, it's clear? Ram, is it clear? Okay. Madan, is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you guys. Okay, so let's do one more small topic here. Okay, एक छोटा सा topic है, मुझे उतना करने दो. Then I will close today's session. Okay, the new small topic, it's more of theoretical. ये theoretical है, that's why I'm taking this topic right now. It is called as your cooperating process. Okay, cooperating process. Okay. Cooperating process is there are two types of cooperating processes. Processes where in this case more than one process is involved, and let us say there are 2 processes now. Okay, so now these 2 processes could be 2 independent processes. That means they run individually, and the output or input of one doesn't hampers the output or input of the second. That means they are the independent processes. Okay, the other could be a dependent process. Okay, other could be a dependent process. So now the process that is dependent to one another is called as your if I have one process for the process to do something, for example, control P. Now for this process to exit, for this print process to exit, there should be some other process that is running. Okay, so there are 2 ways in which we can have a process. So the concurrent processes executing the operating system may be either independent or cooperating process. Okay, so if they are independent, for example, I have here Paint 3D and I have here browser. Now this browser process has nothing to do with this Paint 3D process. So this becomes now independent process. So now in this Paint 3D, if I press here Control P, this Paint window has opened. Now these are the 2 processes running. But now these two processes are cooperating process, because this process is related to this one, this process at the background is related to this one, and we call such type of process as dependent process. These are the dependent process. Now why do we need cooperating process? Okay, so we need cooperating processes for a list of activities. Okay, so what are they? The first is the information sharing. Okay, information sharing. For example, let us take the most beautiful example would be this Google Chrome. Okay, so now if I'll go back to my Google Chrome, see here one process is running, that is taking from the audio, it is taking my input. Okay, so now I have shared my screen. So I have shared my screen, and what have I from the shared screen? What is visible? This Paint 3D. That means this Paint 3D now and this Google Chrome is the cooperating process. Now these two are dependent on one another because I'm presenting my screen. So why am I doing it? Information sharing. I want to share whatever is there in my brain, whatever I have learned. I'm trying to share that information with you guys. So the first is the first purpose of your cooperating process is the information sharing. Okay. The second is the computation speed up. The second reason we go for cooperating process is to speed up the process. Let us say if you want a particular task to run faster, we must break it into subtasks. Okay. For example, कौन सा example हो सकता है? Okay, let us take this wholesome example only. We want Paint 3D to run, we want browser to run, we want our calculator, all of this to work in speed. Okay, so what did we do? We had a big task and we divided them into smaller tasks like editors, calculators, browsers. Editors, you have so many types. So what did we achieve by all this? We achieved computation speed up. Now, if consider there was only one software possible to be installed in computer system, the moment you open this software, everything would get open. सब कुछ खुल जाता. Paint 3D, calculator, सब कुछ खुल जाता. Then your computation speed would be unnecessarily consumed by the unwanted software that gets opened here. So what did we do? We opened smaller processes like Paint 3D and browser. We have here connected it. And we have speeded up the computational speed by only opening those processes which are in need. Okay, so with cooperating process, we can increase the computation speed. Okay. The third purpose of doing cooperating processes is modularity. Okay. So what is it? If we want to construct the system in a modular fashion, that is dividing system functions into separate processes or threads. Okay, with cooperating process, if you'll see here, different modules have been divided. So if I'll go back to my browser here, okay, see here on my screen, you can see this microphone button. Okay, so this is one module. Okay, so this is end the call, another module. This is video, another module. So now this present my screen, another module. So this is in total, this is one parent module. This parent module have so many processes, or operating system in itself has so many modules like folder, like directories, browsers, paints, text editors, etc. Okay, so if we will divide a whole task into different modules, then it becomes easier to handle. Okay, so we can have different modules functioning to perform certain specific tasks, so that overall we can speed up the computation speed. Okay, the fourth reason we can ask different processes to cooperate or to be dependent on one another is for our convenience. Okay, convenience, I think VENI, convenience, convenience. Okay, so if we have if we had the operating system, as I told you, and we had not divided them into different types like browser, editors, calculation or application, and your compilers. Okay, so if we have not divided them into different types and made them a cooperating process, rather we had one big process running. The moment we open it, everything gets open, then it would not be convenient for us to use it. So now if I want to do some editing, I will open either Notepad or Word file or LaTeX, etc. I want to use the browser. Okay, I want to use the browser. I can go for Firefox, I can go for Chrome, I can go for Explorer, I can go for Opera, anything I can go. Okay, so just we can make them cooperate or function in a dependent way. Okay, we can make them relate to one another so that it becomes convenient for us to use such processes. Okay, processes that are dependent on one another is called as cooperating processes. There are two types of processes: independent and dependent process. Okay, so if they are dependent process, then that means one process is related to another. For example, now I am done. So now you have asked me, ma'am, you send us the notes of today. So I don't want to write it down. So what do? I press the control key. Okay, so there is now these two process, the Paint 3D and the print. These are actually two दो अलग अलग process है ये, printing एक process है and the paint is another process. Okay, but now these two process are dependent process. The browser and this folder, independent process. But now this paint and this print, they are dependent process. Okay, so why did I use this and these dependent process are called as cooperating process? Why did I do this? Because I wanted to share this information. Okay, so now if I would have this print command running in the background, then some of the memory would be consumed by print then when it was not necessary, but now it is necessary. I opened it. So by dividing this task, I speeded up the computation, and I've also divided them into modularity so that it was convenient for me. जब चाहिए इसको बुला लिया, जब चाहिए close कर दिया. Okay, so that all of this is called as your cooperating processes. It was asked in one of the competitive exam. Cooperating process is one of the below. It are dependent processes, it are independent processes, both, none of the above. Your cooperating processes are only those processes that are dependent on one another. Okay, so this is it for today. So any doubt from today's class, students? Class, any doubt from today?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Just give me a few minutes time to check if the attendance has been recorded for the day. Okay,
Ma'am,
कल
you can
मुझे-
take today itself.
But somebody was texting that you have some exam today, no, Sessionals?
No, ma'am. Sir did not tell us.
Sir
Sir,
haven't
नहीं लगा।
told us. Ma'am, so that you can take the class today itself.
Today, sir, but will you guys be able to grasp so many informations today? क्योंकि फिर से प्रोसेसेस का कंज्यूमर एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट प्रॉब्लम है, प्रोड्यूसर कंज्यूमर प्रॉब्लम, जिसको आपको अब मैं समझाऊंगी और आपको लैब में you'll have to implement it in the lab. Then I will teach you inter-process communication. Okay.
Ma'am,
Then I
you
will
can
teach
take from 11:30 to 12:30.
then that time I'm occupied. If I'll take, I can continue right now. But then 11:30 के बाद से फिर मेरे बाकी चीजों में involvement है, because I have other involvement department के ना थोड़ा प्रोजेक्ट का उसमें involvement है. And I have a meeting as well today, second half में. तो अगर अभी होगा, then I can give you 5 minutes gap. But the topic that I'm going to teach is important. दैट्स व्हाई मैं चाहती हूँ कि अलग अलग दिन हो ताकि आप लोग ग्रास्प कर पाओ, वरना मैं ले लेती कब, लेकिन कभी ऐसा होगा कि मुझे कंटिन्यू करना पड़ेगा, देन आई टेल यू आई नीड 2 hour क्लास because I cannot finish the topic on single lecture. So these are not related but important topic. So I would prefer different classes. But if you think you can grasp, all of you, if you think आप लोग 1 घंटा और झेल सकते हो मुझे, then I'll continue. Otherwise, what we can do is tomorrow you can give me 40 or 50 minutes time. Okay? फ्रेश माइंड में आओ, अच्छे से एक्सप्लेन कर दूंगी, क्लियर से लेके खत्म कर सकते एनी टाइम टुमारो, योर विश. सुबह बोलो, रात को बोलो, दिन में बोलो, शाम में बोलो, whenever you are free. Because Monday we do not have lecture ना. और what else you can do is आपको कल संडे पूरा फ्री रखना है. अगर संडे फ्री रखना है तो आप मंडे को भी दे सकते हो, because we do not have lecture on Monday. हम लोगों का मंडे लेक्चर नहीं है. Okay, tell me today, tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Let's not waste time. आप लोग भी exhaust हो गए होंगे. Somebody has texted something. No. Students, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Please, आप सब लोग chat box में लिख सकते हो if you are hesitant what to say. Should I continue or should you think you want to do tomorrow? क्योंकि 1 घंटा चलेगा फिर, और 1 घंटा तो लगेगा मुझे. Or you want to rest tomorrow, then we can do it on Monday. Chat box में लिखो, सब लोग लिखो, क्योंकि मुझे 1 या 2 के व्यूज से नहीं होगा ना. I need to know everybody's views. And
Monday.
quickly, let's not waste time.
Monday, ma'am.
Monday, okay. Please, मदर आप भी लिख दो प्लीज, ताकि मैं काउंट कर सकूं कौन ज्यादा है. मुझे ज्यादा नंबर ऑफ स्टूडेंट को, इट्स इम्पोर्टेंट, सो आई कैन नॉट टेक रिस्क. Monday, okay. It seems I think everyone will go for Monday then. Okay. So Monday, can you guys tell me what time Monday? Because 12 to 1 तो मेरा खुद का है Monday. So same time or like second half or like morning में 9 to 10. Yes, everyone has said Monday, so I'm going for Monday. Okay.
Ma'am, Monday we have a class from 10 to 12.
Yeah, 10 to 12, I can see you have your COA, right? Somebody has
Yes, ma'am.
changed the timetable. So in the timetable, मैंने तो अपना class रखा है Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 9:30 to 10:30. This will continue. Okay. So for extra class, you can see that timetable के according 12 से 1 मेरा ही है. But I was not taking this. I had scheduled it on Saturday. तो अब क्या होगा, मैं 12 से 1 का क्लास ले लूँ Monday, या फिर सेकेंड हाफ यू वांट टू डू. व्हाट टाइम यू वांट मी टू टेक एक्स्ट्रा क्लास ऑन मंडे?
मैम सेकंड हाफ में डीएस का क्लास है.
डीएस का क्लास है, ओके. देन व्हाट टाइम? 12 to 1, 1 to 2 और 12:30 to 1:30. टेल मी योर कन्वीनियंस.
Ma'am, 12:30 to 1:30.
Okay, so is everyone does everyone agrees with 12:30 to 1:30?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Prakash, are you there? Prakash.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Prakash, extra class has been scheduled on 12:30 to 1:30 on Monday. Okay, so if you want to attend the extra class, you can join us on Monday 12:30 to 1:30. Okay, is it okay, Prakash?
Ma'am.
Okay. And students, after taking one extra class on Monday, I will finish your first unit. Okay, and then I'll give you. I need to take sessional. मुझे सेशनल लेना है, and जिनके बैक पेपर्स है, they should also be aware about this. तो उनको भी पढ़ने का टाइम मिलना चाहिए. So tell me, in the next week, on which day should I take your sessional? Monday तो क्लास ही हो जाएगा. Okay, 17 I can't take because it's class only. And so tell me 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. When should I take your sessional? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think you will be needing some time to study. So how about Saturday? You will get 1 week time. Students, Saturday?
Ma'am, that is written exam.
Yeah, not written like pen and paper. Offline तो नहीं होगा obviously. Online ही होगा. Whether it will be written or multiple choice, now that depends upon my mood. What will I do? If I want to invest time on preparing question paper, then probably multiple choice. और मेरा तब mood multiple choice में बहुत दिमाग लगता है, मुझे आलस आ गया, then I'll go for objective type. So that depends entirely on my mood. That I will let you know in 2 days time, whether it will be subjective or objective. I will let you know in 2 days time. As of now, just give me the date. How about Saturday? Give me yes or no. Saturday, Friday, Thursday. लिखो chat box में, लिखो students. Or please, let's not waste time. It's almost 11. You might be having more classes. You're exhausted already. Subhash, Thursday, okay? Others? Extra class on Monday at कितने time था? 12:30 p.m. Sessional 1 sessional 1 Thursday. Okay, it seems okay. 2 of the students, Subhash and Madan, has recommended Thursday. So is everyone okay with Thursday? I'm declaring Thursday as your sessional day.
Yes, ma'am.
Please write it. Okay. So let me check the timetable for timing. Okay, Thursday हमारा class है. Okay, yes, Thursday we have class. So Thursday at 9:30 in the morning. Okay, sessional 1 on Thursday. I'm writing it in the group as well. Sessional 1 on Thursday at 9:30 a.m. That is on date कौन सा हुआ? Thursday is 20th. On 28th of May 5, 2021. Syllabus will be okay. So it's decided. On Monday at 12:30 p.m. I'll take your extra class, and on Thursday at 9:30 a.m. I will take your sessional 1. Prakash, there is one more student. Please unmute yourself. Prakash, there is one more student who had contacted me for back paper. I think it's Aarti. So can you inform her that sessional has been scheduled on Thursday at 9:30 a.m. Prakash? Am I audible, Prakash?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, syllabus would be whatever I'll be teaching till Monday. Monday तक मैं जितना भी जो भी पढ़ाऊंगी सब आपका syllabus होगा sessional 1 के लिए. Okay. So am I loud and clear to everyone? If yes, you may leave the classroom, and then those who have queries or doubts, you may stay back and raise your queries. Students, if I'm clear, this session is over. Please leave the classroom. And to those who have doubts, you may stay back and raise your queries.